everybody. How's it going? This is Zach from CSI Starbase, obviously. Welcome to our first ever live stream. We decided to do this live stream because I've been kind of talking about it forever, probably for the last 2 years or so. Every time we do an episode, there's always questions after the episodes are over, and I'm like, you know what, I should probably do a live stream so I can answer some of these questions. I usually do kind of spend some time scrolling through the comments and trying to reply to as many of them as I can, but a lot of times the best questions that are in the comments are the ones that I don't get to because they require a lot of thought, and I'm usually trying to get through there really quickly to answer the ones that I can respond to quickly. So yeah, I figured this was probably a good thing to start doing shortly after episodes go live, kind of like a recap for those episodes. So that was kind of one of the purposes for today, because I know a lot of people, even 2 weeks later, still have questions for that last episode, from that last episode. But beyond that, I also get a ton of questions just about the CSI channel, kind of what our process is for how we do certain things. A lot of people also have comments on things that they would like to see done differently. So, I figured this is kind of just going to be like a low-key thing where, you guys can pretty much ask whatever you want, whether it's a question about that last episode, whether I'm cool with personal questions as well. I think I would actually try to keep them applying towards the channel, but I'm usually not afraid to answer most questions. So, yeah, and I'm also paying attention to the chat when we do live streams on RGV. We usually have we have a question bot that will upload all of the questions to one location so we can easily see it. But I'm actually going to just be a little bit more intimate with this one and actually kind of pay attention to the chat. Okay, so first interesting question that I see here. Who's your insider at SpaceX? So that's actually a really good question. We don't have insiders. I should also mention that we kind of just set all of this up within the last few days, and I'm kind of new to doing this live stream. So if anything ends up not working as it should, like we're kind of getting right now with this chat bot right here, I'll probably be fixing things on the fly. So you guys will probably notice that along the way. So to answer that question, who is our insider at SpaceX? We don't have insiders, and that's one of the things that I have kind of prided myself on since the beginning of starting this channel, is that most of the things that we cover are all based on observation. So I think the team that we have, if in our Discord channel, is easily about 150 people. Very similar to the Lab Padre or NSF server. However, we've always been kind of oriented on, we're usually focused on certain things. And those things can change over time. But if I'm working on an episode specifically, I usually try to make them all aware of it. And then we're all paying extra close attention, with some of us being on the opposite side of the planet. My producer, Geoff, who's also here with us today, he lives in Scotland. I think about half of our server lives in the UK. So, I feel like we got 24/7 surveillance of catching pretty much everything that happens at Starbase, and also really good memories. So I don't blame you for at times thinking that we do have some sort of inside information source, but really it just comes down to paying attention and building up a massive archive of videos. I think we actually have between Geoff and I, and I'm going to go ahead and introduce Geoff since he's here right now. Let me go ahead and pop him up here. Geoff, how's it going?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
Awesome. Yeah, you guys may have heard Geoff's voice on the RGV weekly videos. So he does all the voiceovers for that. He has done a few appearances in some of my episodes as well, as far as actually on camera. Sorry, I just saw Astrogen's question in the the chat. This is why I usually don't pay attention to the chat during the RGV streams because it's super distracting. Anyways, so yeah, Geoff does all of our production work, whether that's editing, pretty much all the audio stuff. So usually I kind of focus on script writing, grabbing the video and images that I need, coordinating with 3D artists and stuff like that. And once we have everything in our actual project timeline for the episode, Geoff does all of the added effects, editing my terrible audio. I finally upgraded my audio this week, which is part of the reason why I'm doing the live stream in the first place, because I got myself a new microphone. It's a Sennheiser MKH 416. Is that right, Geoff?
That's correct. It's awesome. It's a big upgrade we've been waiting for so long. I mean, we're 26 episodes deep now, and we did the camera early on. That was a big one, and for the green screen and so on. But audio has always been a tricky one, and I think we're getting there now.
Yeah. So there is a question in here from Matrix, who asks, says it would be interesting to know what the process is on making videos. So that is a good question because it kind of plays into this whole microphone issue. So usually I actually record everything on voiceover. So sitting here in my studio, I'll record pretty much the entire script. And then I usually kind of mark out what I know needs to be on camera, or I'll plan that out ahead of time as I'm writing. It's just like in my head, I know this needs to be on camera. And so then I'll go back and re-record on camera, and that's actually two separate mics. So like every time it switches from a voiceover scene to like on camera, there is a big switch in audio quality, which drives Geoff crazy because he's constantly having to go through, what is it, Pro Tools that you use in order to try and make them sound semi-identical.
Exactly, and all sorts of restoration software, and let's remove all the AC sounds first, and then we'll get rid of the mobile phone noise. Yeah, the list is endless. It's nuts.
Yeah, it's pretty intense. And before I continue, I do see a 500. I don't know what the currency is on this one, but a $500 donation from. I actually can't even see who this is from. River Socrates. Thank you so much. And I'm guessing these are Argentinian dollars.
Pesos. Pesos.
They don't have pesos in Argentina.
Yes, they do.
Are you serious?
I'm 95% serious. Carry on.
So getting back into just the general process. I mean, I'm never really not working on an episode. So I think like currently I have about like 4 or 5 that are in various stages of completion. And so, I'm constantly writing things out, thinking that this one comes next, and then something will happen that makes it more important to cover a different topic. So I'll kind of just like put it on the side. Which is the case for about 4 episodes right now. I usually try to like time things out to when it's relevant. Although because of how long it takes for these episodes, it'll sometimes end up being like multiple weeks, if not months after it's relevant. Specifically like with this last episode, ideally something like that I would have wanted to come out, I don't know, a month or 2 earlier. But I guess with the amount of research that's involved, it kind of makes some of that impossible. So I know a lot of people are usually like, hey, it'd be cool if you would make shorter episodes in between the longer ones. And I have tried that a few times, but I think Geoff will be able to tell you guys that does not work out very often.
No, yeah, reminded me of when we put on a sort of time period. How long is it going to take? And then we always say multiply it by 4, and you'll get a better idea of where it'll actually end up.
Yeah. So, I mean, some of you have probably heard me say this before. Like, we do put about between research, gathering images and videos, coordinating with 3D artists, actually recording, editing. Well, I guess there's 2 different steps to recording. But between all of that, I think it's about, last time I calculated, it was about like 4 hours per minute of footage. So like with that last episode being 80 minutes long, you would multiply that by 4 to get how long it actually takes us to produce these episodes. So it is not a quick process at all.
I can add to that for the last episode. After writing it, compiling all the footage, all the voiceovers recorded and so on, I then get started with making it look all pretty. And it took me 10 days, and it was 160 hours over the 10 days to get it to the point of, I think we're happy with it.
Yeah. It's definitely tough. I think we make it more difficult on ourselves regularly. We're always trying to like incorporate new things that we haven't done before, just to improve the quality. I mean, when I first started, I think what my idea of that was to include as many skits as I could. At that time, I don't think I fully was aware of the size of or who our audience truly is. So, you would think that there would be a lot of like young people who are interested in this topic, but it's really not. So, I mean, out of my general audience, I think only like less than 1% are between the ages of 16 and like 19 or something like that. And then the next age group is like 20 something to like 35, and that is only like 15%, and it increases in every age group after that. So once I realized that, I kind of started to understand why some people didn't like the skits, which was kind of sad because that was one of my favorite things to do, was to include those skits. But after realizing that my audience tends to be a little on the older side, I totally understood why I got some complaints about those. But I do still try to fit those in wherever possible. But I guess continuing on to the actual, back to that question, I would say the editing process is probably, I would say it's the funnest, it's the most fun part of the whole thing. I really strongly dislike the script writing process because I'm usually, I hate to say this in a live stream, but I mean, my boss knows I'm usually at work while I'm doing that. So I work 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. So every day for 14 days straight, I'm out in West Texas, and I'm usually writing my scripts while I'm at work. So there's a lot of that going on where I am going back and forth between doing my job, and writing the script. So because of that, my attention is constantly going back and forth between, the things that I actually need to do at work and trying to, work through this like creative process at the same time. So, that's
I was
extremely
going
difficult.
to say that's been about a year now that you've been in that shape, though, isn't it? So before then, there was a period of full time, and that's why there was a lot more output from you at that stage, and then we had to reshape how you managed to fit it all in.
Yeah, for sure. I did kind of enjoy the time when I was doing it full time because it allowed me to get things out quicker. But I think since I've gone back to actually having a full time job, for one, I'm a lot happier because I don't feel like so much pressure to get videos out. And I think I've gotten away from the mind state of pumping out videos. I got to be careful with how deep I want to go into that. But let's just say I'm strongly against putting out content just to put out content. If I know somebody is out there covering a similar topic, I can pretty much anticipate what everybody else is going to talk about on a weekly basis. So because I already know that all these people are going to talk about this stuff on a weekly basis, I'm going to assume that most of you guys are subscribed to one of those people. So for me, it's not worth it to actually make weekly videos for that reason, because I already know other people are doing that. And then I don't feel like I'm like competing with anybody because I do something completely different. Whereas if I was making weekly videos, I feel like it would just cause drama, you know, because I would have to, I would be kind of like Scott Manley. Scott Manley likes to review other people's content, like Neil deGrasse Tyson. He loves to make videos about why that guy is wrong about things. And I feel like I would just naturally turn into that kind of person. So that's why I don't like making short weekly videos like that, because I would spend a lot of time reviewing other people's videos and trying to correct all the misconceptions that are out there. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not into causing drama like that.
Okay, give that chat a scroll, would you? And you're missing quite a bit out.
Yeah, I have. I was trying to keep it up top just so I can answer some of these other questions that were in line. Because there was a good one. Oh wow, yeah. So I'm gonna answer that question throughout this, because that is actually the best possible question anybody could ask right now is about the actual process. So I'll keep touching on some of that as we go. But there was a few others. Somebody asked if I was married. The answer is no. I actually, honestly, don't really have too much time for personal. Yeah, Jeff's lucky. He handled that before starting this with me. But I think if he was trying to work on this channel with me without being married, he'd probably be single too. So yeah, I honestly haven't really had time to get out there as much and, you know, have an actual social life because, yeah, I'm too busy making content. So, let's see. Some of the other questions down the list. We have one from Andrew McClelland. So, again, like I said, this is going to end up bouncing back and forth between technical questions and, you know, questions about us and the actual channel. So hopefully y'all don't mind that. Andrew's question was, do you have any updated speculation on how they will solve the spin-up lines for the center engines in the new launch mount? Yeah, so this is one thing that I've kind of talked about on the RGV stream. But yeah, you know, when we're kind of just speculating on what the actual new launch mount is going to look like, and this is something I showed on there today, but I guess we can go ahead and talk about it again here because it's a fun topic that, I don't know, maybe I've started some drama on Twitter apparently. So let's see. I'll switch over to this right window right here. So this is basically, you know, I've mentioned a lot on Twitter what I'm kind of expecting as far as like a interchangeable launch mount. And so Chrome Kiwi is one of the few people who listens very carefully when I describe things and basically kind of modeled something pretty much right on the dot for what I've been kind of talking about. And so basically we're talking about like simplifying the actual launch mount. So basically allowing it to be interchangeable. So, you know, I've said this a few times on X, you know, this structure is, the current launch mount is really not designed to be able to withstand the force of 33 Raptor 2 engines. And that's not only the actual launch mount deck itself, but also the blast surface underneath. You know, and we're all expecting that the actual thrust from the total thrust of future versions of the boosters will probably increase by up to what was it, 50% roughly. So that's quite a bit. So, you know, if you're already having issues with deterioration of the blast surface underneath and the actual deck because you have flames that contact it, then the thing that you got to do is like remove as many failure points as possible. So, you know, they've spent tons of time replacing all of the hoses for the actual QDs inside of the launch mount. I'm going to go ahead and let's see, I'm going to pull that up in the background here. So they've changed out all of the QDs inside of the launch mount multiple times. And they've also obviously had to change the actual hoses on the booster QD. And on top of that, they also end up adding or replacing panels on the top of the launch mount. And so those are like, oh, well, there's another weak point. The flame deflectors on the bottom of the launch mount end up cracking all the time. And they end up having to like re-weld the actual like flame deflectors on the launch mount. So you have all these different weak points that require refurbishment. And so, kind of my thinking on this is every single one of those weak points needs to be removed if possible. So for one, you're able to remove the actual legs themselves. So you're not having exhaust flow going past the legs. It's just going straight through, and it ideally shouldn't actually contact the legs if there are any actual legs to speak of. You're still going to have contact with the top surface. That's pretty much unavoidable, but that is one of the reasons why you want this to be interchangeable, because the top surface is going to get worn down every single launch. So you want to be able to like transport this back somewhere else and do all of your refurbishment essentially. As far as the QDs go, the question actually mentioned the center engines, but I think they were actually referring to the outer 20, because the center engines are actually already started through the booster QD. So that was something that we kind of found out after I posed it as a question to Elon on Twitter, probably about like a year and a half, almost 2 years ago. I kind of asked like, hey, like in order to reduce the complexity, why not just start the center engines through the booster QD? And at that time, he said that that was something that they're already doing. To be honest, I haven't actually seen proof that that's truly happening. We've analyzed the outside of the launch mount enough to be able to feel like we would see signs of things that got changed in order to allow them to start doing that, but haven't actually seen it. But the simple fact that he's like acknowledged it as something that can happen, whether it is or not, to me, that means that they could potentially do all 33 of them through the booster QD. So, I mean, you either do it through the COPVs, you do it through the booster QD, or you do it through the Raptor QDs. And the Raptor QDs is the most complex out of all of those options. So in my opinion, that is the biggest thing that my goal would be to remove, is those Raptor QDs, in order to kind of simplify things a little bit. Whoa. Okay.
Are you a fan of
we have something interesting that just came up actually that I wanted to mention. So Elon just posted this. Wow.
Holy moly.
Yeah, that would be Booster 11's aft section. That is insane.
That held together pretty well.
There's so many details that I was hoping were going to be included in here that we're not able to. Oh, wait, hold on. What's this right here? Oh, boy. I wonder if this is what I think it is. Well, these are stringers from the side. This almost looked like it was the filter. We've been hoping to see some sort of signs, but I don't. Oh, man, I hope he posts more images of this.
That's not the QD, is it?
I can't tell which side the QD would actually be on. Man, that was completely unexpected right there. Yeah, wow. Anyways, that's pretty crazy. Actually, I'm going to scroll down through the chat and see if anybody has any comments on this. And then I'm probably going to come back up and answer some other questions. On the way down here, I do want to thank a few people for donations. So I see $10 from JK Videos. Thank you. Also, $10 from Mike Henderson. Great analysis and production quality. Do you get inquiries from mainstream media, agencies, governments? No, surprisingly. I think my channel's like super small, and I don't think I've reached that point yet where people are actually like from those type of agencies like coming out to me for questions for some reason. I do think it's funny because they'll end up like asking some more random, like they'll ask some people who are like more influential, like in the Tesla space about SpaceX things. And I'm like, wow, okay. But yeah, no, I don't get those kind of approaches.
That picture's
Yeah.
taking my breath away, man. I can't believe what I'm seeing.
Yeah, exactly. I'm actually, give me 1 second, y'all, because I can't just like not repost this.
I've got so many questions. Like, how deep is the water? How did they get that so easily? How long did it take them to do that?
That's all I gotta say. Wow. Yeah, I mean, I wonder how. So I think this is like a sign that the actual booster exploded. We already had those images that kind of showed the before and afters when it landed, and a lot of people didn't really trust those images. But to me, this is like clear evidence that this thing actually exploded because of the way unless they went down there and actually cut it, because you could have some deep sea divers go down there and actually cut this stuff apart. But that kind of looks like it's separated at a ring weld. But
Okay, so it's chat saying 60 meters deep, 180 feet.
yeah, I wonder if I'm gonna have to ask Ryan Hansen Space about this later if he thinks this may actually be that part of that filtration screen. I do think I'm not sure about that because I feel like these are stringers from the side of the tank that have been ripped free, but I don't know how all of those would rip free at the same time. That's
Look how the engine bells are full of sediment.
yeah, that's incredible. What happened to the thrust puck? That's what I want to know. It's just gone.
It's gone.
Wow. So I believe we got a little bit sidetracked. Damien Babby, I'm sorry if I said your name wrong, exploded with FTS or due to hitting the water. Well, we've heard a few different stories on that. A few I can't share. But I one way or another, they destroyed it. I personally think it had something to do with the FTS, but I've heard people who have a little bit more inside knowledge tell me that is definitely not what happened. So, maybe one day they'll actually tell us how they sunk it. I was actually hoping that we would see more of the tank of the vehicle so that, you could maybe get some indications on what they did to actually rip it apart like this. But yeah, that is insane. It's crazy how well the engine shielding on the interior actually held up after all of this. Wow. So I'm going to actually go a little bit back up in this question list really quick. I see this comment from Matrix: video production timelines slipping more than launch timelines. Yes and no. I kind of work on my own time. I used to, like I said, try and get things out as quickly as possible, but now, I'm a little bit more focused on quality over quantity. So I don't necessarily view things as slipping, even though they may take longer than what some people would like. So let's see, and to help out, if you guys, when you do ask questions, if you could at least include the word question in there, because then it'll actually highlight it for me. Makes it a little bit easier for me to scroll through this chat to find the questions. Somebody asked about the water deluge system at Massey's. How does that water-cooled system work? That actually is the next episode I was planning to release. So I guess I will say here, which is something I rarely do, the 3 episodes that I'm currently working on the most in depth. So we have the Massey's Flame Trench. We have the orbital tank farm reconstruction. Even though Ryan is about to release one about the chopsticks, I was really planning on doing one just about the chopsticks. But yeah, I'm still on the fence about that because there's a lot of like, obviously refurbishment that they've done over the last few months. And I feel like it may be a good episode to actually like go through piece by piece and explain exactly what they did and, how that all, what's the bigger picture of all that stuff. The fourth one is one that has been going on for even longer, which is basically, it started off as the deep dive into the Megabay, like how manufacturing has changed ever since they introduced the Megabay. So like first we had all these animations just for the structures that were in there initially, and this was before they had those workstations, the engine install stands. So we had like all these animations for just the working platforms and how that allows them to like access the inside of the tanks without needing like scaffolding or the skylift cranes. And so now at this point, because so much has happened since that I started writing that, now I have to cover pretty much everything. So inside and outside of the engine work stands on both the booster bay and the ship bay, kind of wanted to get into like the stacking process. I think a lot of people who are like super into Starship content are fairly aware of how the stacking process works, but we wanted to do a full animation of each step of that stacking process. And ideally, I was also going to get into some of the Star Factory related stuff as it relates to how manufacturing has changed over the last like 2 years. But unfortunately, during the last Everyday Astronaut tour of Starbase, we really didn't get to see much of the inside of the Star Factory as far as like things that would be relevant for me to actually be able to put that storyline together. So I feel like I'm going to have to leave that out, unfortunately. It'll probably just be both bays. And that one, even while it's the one I want to do the most, I'm holding off on it actually because I'm pretty confident they're going to disassemble the Highbay within the next 6 months. So I'm hoping that would be the ideal time to release that episode. So, I'm kind of delaying it based on that assumption that they're going to remove the Highbay. That's kind of just the way my mind processes timelines of when I should release certain things. Yeah, so Mark Hancock asks, what is your engineering background? So I'm actually a mechanical engineer. I have a bachelor's in mechanical engineering. I got a minor in computer science. And I'm currently a petroleum engineer as far as like my actual profession. I've also done I have a lot of actual professional work in the construction industry, so both structural steel and mechanical. I've worked for mechanical design companies. I've done a few like freelance stuff with a few different startups for products that needed mechanical engineer design work. I've worked in the cannabis industry, so that's what I was doing before I went full time with my YouTube channel. I was actually working in the cannabis industry for 2 years. And I think some people would find that surprising, but that actually was one of like the most beneficial experiences that I've had because I was responsible for supply chain management for their entire network. So all like capital equipment, which is capital equipment you could just think of as anything you see at Starbase as far as facilities go, like whether it's, bridge cranes, SPMTs, any fixed structure, all of that is our capital investments. And so I was basically the sole person responsible for all of their manufacturing equipment across 10 different states. So that kind of helped my mind kind of process how supply chain management works. And that's, in my opinion, one of the biggest reasons why I end up kind of falling into this role of like trying to predict things before they occur because sometimes most of the time people don't become aware of something until it actually becomes obvious what it is. But things don't just, for the most part, show up out of nowhere and all of a sudden like, oh, hey, we have a launch mount. There's always little tiny breadcrumbs that lead to the actual final product, and sometimes they're visible for 6 months, if not more, before the actual object that of interest actually shows up. And so I think, supply chain mentality kind of helps you understand that it takes a lot of effort to move all this stuff. It takes a lot of effort to get the things that you need where you want them to be at the right time, and have the people that you need to actually perform that work. You don't want them sitting around doing nothing. You don't want them showing up too early and having nothing to do. You don't want all of this equipment on site and then have nobody to actually do the install work. So all of that coordination is pretty big. Continuing on, now I'm currently back in the, I work oil and gas right now. So I'm a field engineer for a hydraulic fracturing company. So that's what I've been doing for about 4 years. So I did that for 3 years, left and did 2 years in the cannabis industry, 6 months full-time on my YouTube channel. And now I've been back in the cannabis industry, oil and gas for about the last year. So I'm going to keep moving on. And I'm sorry if I missed any of the donations. I haven't gotten usually they stay up at the top, and these ones have kind of been just flying by, and I'm not able to see them once I miss them. So, this is a good comment that I like right here. So they said, Failspace said they got to see IFT3 back in March. Thank you for explaining it in your video. I think that's one of my big goals in general, is for people to be able to look at things differently. So that we used to kind of just watch the propellant loading process, for example. There was a lot of guesswork, very good guesswork. For me, when I got started with the whole Starship scene, I was watching Lab Padre live streams, and most of the time I was listening to Thomas over at Lab Padre explain the propellant loading process. I think that Thomas definitely kind of inspired me to do something along those same lines, which is just explaining how things actually work, so that the next time somebody's watching the same event, they know exactly what it is they're seeing at different times. And that also applies to the launches as well too. I find that really awesome, being able to see all of the small details in the launches, and then discuss each one of them, so that next time when people are watching the live streams and somebody says the wrong information about it, the entire audience is like, hey, that's actually not true. We all know the answer to that. Awesome donation coming in from Lab Padre. Shout out to Lewis. Thank you for that $20 donation. I'm most likely going to be doing a live stream with Lewis for Flight 5 if I'm able to make it down there. That's my goal right now, is to actually get down there for Flight 5. So if I do, y'all will see me on the Lab Padre live stream. If I do it in a different location than where he is, then I'll be able to include on camera, kind of like we're doing here. A lot of people have asked why we don't do this on the RGV stream, and I think the main reason is because, for one, I don't like being on camera. I really strongly hate being on camera. So, even the thought of doing this for the longest time really bothered me. And even being on camera during my own shows, it's had to grow on me over time. I really do not like being on camera. So if you guys try and follow me on social media, Instagram or something like that, you'll see I don't really post that many pictures. Somebody asked, can you please make a video on how spacious the payload area would be? What all items will fit inside if there's a crew towards mass, the payload mass in terms of off cruise life support system. Currently, I'm not the right person for that. I think that is a Ring Watchers thing. Not even them, because it just so happens that all of the 3D artists that I work with don't like working on things that don't exist. So a lot of times people will email me and they're like, hey, can you do a video about this concept. Okay, here's a good one. Somebody asked me to do a video about landing Starship horizontally on the moon, and like all of the equipment that would be required to pull that off, as far as like landing legs for it to land horizontally, the thrusters and all that stuff. And I'm like, dude, like, good luck getting Ryan or Nick to work on something that doesn't exist. It's not going to happen. There's like so many things that do exist that they have a backlog of, that like every time I ask Ryan to do something, he's like, dude, I'm like working on other things. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but I need this. So the fact that it's something that's real, or we 95% sure that it exists, they're usually willing to work on it. But that is one of the big reasons I don't do what if scenario videos, because, well, I guess I do, but not that kind of what if videos. It just, I think that kind of video already exists. You know, somebody's done like concepts of like what the interior will look like, but you know, once we actually see anything related to that vehicle, I'll probably end up talking about it. But until we do, I don't think that will happen. Let's see. A lot of questions about the everyday astronaut, asking about if I'm ever going to kidnap him again. I'd love to, honestly. Like we have, Tim's like one of the greatest people I've ever worked with, because he is like so down to earth, like more than you would expect. Like it's not every day you get to, you know, meet somebody who kind of got you started on what it is you're doing. And shout out to John Randolph for that super chat, $10. See that coming in? It's like right here on the screen, and I wasn't even paying attention. I can see it now. So yeah, Tim. Really funny about that story is that whole skit was actually Tim's idea. So I met up with him when I went down to Starbase, and I kind of just like contacted him, just seeing if he was willing to hang out. I was like, hey man, I'm down here at Starbase. If you're ever at on site, let me know, and maybe we can just link up or something. He's like, oh, where are you at? I'll pick you up. So he picks me up in his Tesla, and on the way to Starbase, I told him, I was like, it'd be cool if we did, some sort of crossover if you want to show up in the episode. And he was like, oh, no, I already got this, man. He's like, your whole thing is CSI, right? He's like, so how about you kidnap me and we'll do like an interrogation? And I was like, are you serious? And he was like, yeah. He's like, we'll go get some, get some rope. You can bind up my hands. You can put a bag over my head and all that. And I'm like, damn, this is like your first time meeting me, and you're willing to do all this. Yeah, it was hilarious to me that he actually that was all his suggestion. I don't think a lot of people actually know that. So somebody's asking me to go look at the B11 image, which I did have up before. I guess I'll just like keep it back up right here right now, since if people just happen to show up and they haven't seen it yet, they become aware of it, I guess. Yeah, Tim's awesome. I don't know when I'll get to do another one with him. He's a very busy person. He's definitely at the top of my list though, because he's always down to do pretty much whatever. But I can always tell when he's like too busy. Anytime I hit him up and he doesn't respond, I'm like, all right, I know he's got something really cool going on. So yeah, we'll see. It'll definitely happen at some point. Let's see. Can we get a static background image? I think they were talking about this little split screen that we had going over there with the heat shield tiles. Yeah, I can definitely have it be static. I think I can just like pause it. So that was the one where we were both side by side. Yeah, 10:4. I did mention this before, but I do think it's worth bringing up again. So Wesley Clark says, very interesting how few viewers there are in the younger demographic. I would have thought 20 to 30-year-old demographic would have been much larger. Honestly, me too. I don't really know what's up with that. It's been bothering me for like the longest time. I'm like, when I was young, like I was really into all this stuff. And honestly, like I blame like TikTok and YouTube Shorts for the way that people's brains have been altered as far as like not being able to sit and watch something for longer than like 60 seconds. I don't know. I think that there was a certain generation that when they were young, spaceflight was like like major, and it was all over the news. Especially during the space shuttle era, like that stuff was on the news all the time, and so like the whole country was aware of it, and it was actually like one of the few times I think that the whole country has been like on board for one single idea. You know what I mean? And it's been about, I think that was the last time the whole country actually agreed on one thing. So I think because that was such like a large thing back then, it's not a surprise that a lot of people who were alive back in that age tend to be most of my audience. Yeah, I don't know. I think for some reason, the younger generation isn't as interested in that for some reason. But yeah, it does make me sad. Let's see. Continuing on. Check 2 asks, do you think IFT 5 got pushed by the FAA because Elon joining a political party and making it public? I don't know. This is one of those topics I usually try to avoid. I don't do 3-letter agencies, first of all. Like, you'll rarely hear me talk about 3-letter agencies. My view on that is kind of my view on how I feel like everybody should approach it. Like, even having him mention it usually tends to cause a bunch of people to hop on to the FAA's Twitter page and like, why aren't you guys giving SpaceX their license and all this stuff? And it's like, that, in my opinion, none of that really helps. So I try and like stay out of that stuff. Like, you will rarely ever see me tweet anything about FAA related items. Like, you just won't see that. I'd like to stay out of that stuff because I'm not trying to like contribute to what I view is a problem. So yeah, as far as the political party stuff, maybe that is what's happening. Maybe it's not, but like that, there was no way he didn't know that was going to be the outcome. So my opinion on it doesn't necessarily really matter because he knew what he was getting into when he did it. So in my opinion, he welcomed that. I think he's a very intelligent person, and he at times maybe doesn't think about things ahead of time, but things like that, he knows what he's getting himself into. So I think he brings all of it on himself. Let's see. I guess this is actually a good question because I've had my own issues with it. So Little Bites asked, do you have any advice for managing mental health as a busy adult? I don't know, honestly. I feel like I'm like a weird human because I rarely let a lot of that stuff affect me. I did have one point where like I literally almost canceled the entire channel. And that was like right before I went back to work because, it was reaching the point where I think it was like, it was either the beginning of August or the end of July where we needed sponsors for the upcoming episodes because, I have Geoff, who, I'm obviously paying Geoff, any 3D artist that I work with, every single photographer that I display an image from in my episodes, I am like on all of their Patreons. So I'm like, I'm always trying to redistribute funds to everybody else. And having a sponsor is a big part of that. Cause like without it, you're just like relying on YouTube income and Patreon. And my Patreon count was like fairly low at that time. So I was like really needing that ad revenue from sponsors. And so as soon as they were like, oh yeah, we might have something for you in December, I was like, okay, what am I supposed to do for like the next 4 months? And, that kind of caused like a huge situation for me. Like mentally, it was like, okay, well, I guess that means I got to put out videos more often. And, okay, how am I going to chop these things that I would normally put as an hour-long video into 4 different 15-minute episodes so that I can get out something every week? Because that's something a lot of sponsors require is a video at least every 2 weeks. And if you're not able to meet that, then they'll just like pull your sponsorship. The funny thing about that is actually now that I'm spacing my episodes out, like instead of being 2 weeks apart, they're like 2 months apart. I actually get more offers for sponsors. So it's weird the way that works out. But yeah, as far as how to balance that, it really just comes down to like recognizing that something is an actual issue for you instead of just like, I'm fine. I feel like a lot of people are like that. You ask them what's wrong and they're like, oh no, I'm fine. Like, nah, you gotta be aware of like your own mental state and take that stuff seriously. As far as how to manage it, I don't know. Everybody does things differently. I don't know if that was the greatest answer. So let's see. I do see a $25 super chat from George Bissedin. Thanks for your support. How did they stop the chopstick oscillation? I don't think they did. Geoff, did they stop that?
I think they attempted to. They seem to have a kind of opposite push when it comes to being closed, but no. And then the entire tower starts rocking, so how are you going to stop that unless you have a huge Far East style anti-earthquake device on the top of the tower?
Right. Yeah, exactly. For that person who asked, I am trying to pause this background. We'll see if it stops when it reaches the end of the video loop. Yeah, but so I don't think that they can necessarily stop it though. Like the arms are just super long, so they're going to naturally have that oscillation. A lot of people, after we first saw that oscillation, they were like, oh, well, they'll tune that out with PID tuning. And I'm like, no, they won't. Like, I'm still willing to die on that hill you can't do that because it's not, for one, if it was supported on both sides, you could probably do it. But because it's only supported on one side, it's going to do what it wants to do. Like, it's just the momentum that it has because it's such a heavy structure and it's so long. Like, if you just stop it, if you try to gradually slow it down in order for it to not oscillate, then it's probably not going to get to where it needs to go in time. So I think they're more worried about speed than they are about the oscillation. And once it actually reaches the point where they install those shorter chopsticks, I think that is when we'll finally see the oscillation go away. Let's see here. Sorry, I'm just reading through the comments as I'm going here. So William Foss asks, I don't know about moisture content in the propellants causing icing issues, but I'm convinced it's the change in temperature between LOX and CH4 with the common contact surfaces. Is the ice really H2O related? Yeah, I mean, it's just that's the way chemistry works. If you burn liquid oxygen and if you burn oxygen and methane, you get CO2 and water. So we always knew that was a thing. We just refused to accept for the longest time that they were actually using autogen gases for that. But this is why I loved him, because he was like right on top of that immediately. As soon as Elon said that they were using combustion gas, he was like, wait, what about that CO2? And if you really rewatch that, I'm glad this question got asked because I wanted to talk about this more in the episode, but I didn't want to like hang on it too long. Tim was well aware of exactly what Elon was hinting at with the water vapor and CO2. And like, in my opinion, when Tim brought up CO2, Elon was like, it's ice. It doesn't matter what kind of ice, it's just ice. Yeah, I was really glad that Tim asked that question because it was good to get some actual confirmation on that. Let's see. I don't know if that fully answered the question, but I hope it did. I'm sorry while I take a break here because I'm a little bit thirsty. By the way, I was going to do the show earlier in the day, but I was like, I feel like if I do it at night, it'll be a little bit more intimate for those who like to enjoy their own beverages at night. So I got mine right here. It's water, of course. So Richard Vogel asked, do you think that they will cool the top of the new launch mount with water like the shower head? Yeah, I did talk about this in the RGV stream again today. But basically, Chrome Kiwi designed this with rainbirds on this, and that is certainly possible. But after talking with Ryan about it, we've kind of come to the conclusion that it wouldn't really make sense to do anything other than have a actual water cooled deck for the top of this, because that way you're forcing the water out right at the contact surface where the plume is hitting. So yeah, I think it'll probably more likely be a water cooled top deck instead of rainbirds like this. I see this comment from Matrix about Elon posting a screenshot of his camera roll. Oh man, that's hilarious. I was thinking the same thing actually. I was like, why is this a screenshot of a screenshot? Oh man. Let's see. Let's see here. So Ken Ochinato asks, do you think the wobbling of the tower will pose a problem to its structure once the catches are daily or several times a week? No. Towers are basically supposed to wobble. So I'm going to actually maybe pull up a video of that here. I know that Niall Anderson has been the go-to person for posting all of these wiggles. But no, I mean, skyscrapers are supposed to do that. They're designed to wiggle, and I think there's a possibility that they're intentionally catching it higher up on the tower in order to get it into a location where it's actually causing the tower to sway. Because the tower is a lot more stiff lower down, and so if they wanted it to be stiffer for the catch, they could easily force that to happen by catching lower down on the tower. But by catching it up higher, it kind of, you get that sway once it actually lands. And I think that's kind of like a shock absorber to some degree. Yeah, I'm not really finding this image I was looking for in the background here. But yeah, I think all of that stuff is fairly normal. And sorry, I was looking to see if I was going to find that quickly, but I failed, so that's okay. Oh, here we go. So this is the example of that, which obviously this is sped up a lot. I mean, I get it. It looks scary, but it's really not that bad. It just looks bad because this is sped up like this is like 10x speed, I think. At least 5x. So yeah, it looks more dramatic than it actually is, I think. Cool. So. . Yeah, Dave Avery is talking about that image of Booster 11. He says the entire thrust puck, center 13 engines, and the tankage and piping is missing. Yeah, it certainly is. Yeah, that was probably one of the more epic images of this year so far. So there's a question that's not shown here, but I actually am thinking about it because I do get asked it relatively frequently. A lot of people ask, well, I really like your episodes, but do you think you could get rid of all of those 5-second pauses in between your sentences? So, I want to bring that up because it's such a frequent question that I get, and it's actually a good question because in the past I did eliminate them, I reached the point where you couldn't even hear me breathe. We would just cut out all the breaths, right? And there are other content creators who do that, who you'll never hear them breathe because they cut it out. And that doesn't necessarily work for my type of content because what I like to do, and now that I'm explaining this, hopefully you guys will see it. I don't know how many people are actually aware that I do this, but one of the big motivators that I've always had with my channel is making sure that I'm sure that almost all of you have watched a YouTube video from somebody, and whatever they're talking about, and you look on the screen, it has nothing to do with what they're actually talking about. So that's one thing that's always bothered me. Like I would be watching something about F-22 Raptors, and they're showing F-15 Eagles on the screen, and I'm like, what does this have to do with what we're talking about? So my goal, and this is part of what takes so long to produce these episodes, is I don't even really, well, unless I already know I have everything I need for it, I usually don't write scripts without having the images. So I get images first, and then I write the scripts based on the images that I have. Same thing with video. And even bigger than that, what I try to do, and if I don't have something to show on screen for it, then that's usually something that will turn into an on-camera scene. Or if I just feel like the vibe requires on camera, then I'll do that. But another thing that we do with video in particular is I try to align everything so that it happens the moment I say it in the script. So if I'm talking about stage separation, for example, and there's 5 different events that happen in stage separation, then I will stretch and contract different sections of the video, basically speeding or slowing them down so that they fit in between the points that I'm making. So you'll notice that if I say the word explode, the explosion will happen the moment I say that. And that goes for every video that I don't even use videos in my, you'll rarely see me play something real time. There's always some sort of wave sign of slowing, speeding up and slowing it down in order to have it perfectly fit in between my sentences. And so to go along with that, if you say one sentence and that sentence is only 5 seconds long, then if your video footage that you're trying to explain with a 5-second sentence is a 2-hour clip, then you got to dramatically shrink it down and speed it up, and it may go by so quickly that you can't even really see what's on screen. So my general rule is 4 to 5 seconds. So every video has to at least be on screen for about 4 to 5 seconds, because if it's any less than that, if you blink, you'll miss it. So that's where the intentional pauses come into play, is because I'm trying to fit this video here without giving people epileptic seizures. I see Geoff posted comments in the chat under CSI Starbase. That's funny. Yeah, that was the other thing he said. 5-second gaps is a bit of a stretch. Yeah, they said that I do those gaps in between every sentence. I'm like, come on, man. Usually I'm talking faster than I should. Those pauses are pretty rare. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, when I saw that comment though, I was really bothered by it. So that's why I had to bring it up here today. Because I'm like, come on, man. I'm not it's not every single sentence. Let's be real. Yeah, that's another thing. Astro Joe put up. I mean, if you guys watch the RGV streams, I say the word a lot, and it's not because like it's just a bad habit. It is a bad habit, but I'm like literally thinking as I'm talking, and especially like if you're an expert in a topic, usually you're able to be like really fluid with whatever you're talking about. If it's something you do on a daily basis, like if I'm talking to you guys about things within the oil and gas industry, you probably won't hear me say the word ever. But with a lot of these things, I'm like trying to like reference past, present, future. When did this occur? All these different things. And a lot of the topics that I do cover are things that I'm not an expert in. Most of them are actually. So if I were to, I'm guessing this is applied to doing things a little bit more off script, because I do use a teleprompter when I'm doing on camera scenes. So that's I think what Astro Joe's referring to. I literally cannot do it without that because I will get distracted. I will start changing the sentences in my head. The ums will pop out. So yeah, I've gotten a lot better with not having my eyes move when I'm doing those scenes. But it's impossible to do it without that. If you guys knew how many takes I do for on-camera scenes, you would be shocked and appalled. Let's see. Okay, so we did have a question from James Rosar, and I guess we're going back to that Booster 11 picture. Maybe. So the question was related to those engine bells. Wait, what? Why is the post unavailable? Did Elon delete the post? I'm looking in the chat to see if somebody can answer this question, because it's gone. Look at this. That is even more hilarious. I'm not gonna lie. Say that again, Geoff.
Maybe Gwyn Shotwell got involved.
He's just like, what are you doing? Oh, okay, so he reposted it. Come on, man. Let's see. Okay. So the question. Oh, yeah, he deleted it and replaced it with the cropped version. That's hilarious. That's when you just like get too excited about something and you're just like post it immediately. So I guess I have to redo my post, which whatever. I'm literally posting the exact same thing I did before. Wow. It won't even let me type it. What is going on here? I just want eyes, man. What? Okay, maybe it's not meant to be. So yeah, the question actually was about the sediment. Where did it go? Okay, regarding the booster, flight booster 11 pick, the bells on either side of the missing portion are full of sediment. Yeah, I mean, I think once it exploded, it probably fell. The bottom like turned and went straight down.
Wait, Zach, you need to explain that you think it exploded on the surface.
Right.
Do we know that it exploded on the surface?
Well, he hasn't said that yet. He hasn't answered, but you know, we're assuming that it exploded on the surface because I mean, look at it. I think a lot of people thought that they were just going to like open up the vents and let it sink, but that doesn't really work out that well. I think I think if you want it to sink and you don't want to be out there all day, then you gotta either shoot it or blow it up with the FTS. So one of those two options is the only way you're getting it to go down. Either way, puncturing the tank somehow is and joining the LOX and methane tanks in some way is going to cause it to explode. And so with basically splitting the tank, it makes sense that the aft section is going to fall with the engines down. So I'm pretty sure that's what ended up happening here, because you can see all of that, like they said, the sediment down there. Yeah, that's human for size would be really cool on this one because it's so massive. Yeah. Impressive. Anyways, I'm going to continue on, answer a few more questions. I'm not sure how long we're going to go tonight. I'm kind of just like playing it by ear. One other thing I should mention is that Geoff actually lives in Scotland. So that's one of the more interesting things that a lot of people don't know. Well, I mean, if you hear his voice, you probably can put it together. But he lives in Scotland. So that adds like a whole different layer of complexity.
Logistics.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. So number one, Geoff has to pretty much live on American time. When I'm awake, he'll usually try to be awake. But we've gotten in the system where, because he's awake, like Europe wakes up before the United States does, he'll work on the project before I wake up. So I'll usually try to like divide each episode into two parts. So that if I'm working in one of them, he can be in the other. And then as soon as one of us is ready to switch or absolutely needs to switch, we'll both just move over. So whether that's recording, editing, whatever, we'll just switch back and forth between the two parts so that each of us can continue moving, because it's kind of ridiculous. And luckily, DaVinci Resolve allows you to work as over through the cloud. So, we're able to. We have to fully share our library of media, so every image, every video, completely shared on both sides so that we can both get in and see pretty much everything, because it's really difficult to...
Where are we at right now? I think we're at like 7 terabytes of archive. Roughly speaking.
Well, that depends if you're talking about the physical archive or the cloud archive, because there's 2 cloud archives. We actually have another archive. Deciding if I want to talk. Yeah, I'll talk about it. So we basically have an archive of every live stream camera, all of them.
No, don't talk about that one.
Why not? So we have an archive. I'm not even going to say where it exists at, but we have an archive of every live stream camera, 12 hours in 12-hour increments for the last like year and a half. So I don't even know what that storage looks like, but it's got to be somewhere on the order of like 150, 200 terabytes, if not more. Yeah. Moving on.
Let's do that. Yeah. So, where were we?
So
yes. I had a point to add. I don't know if you would appreciate me saying this, but we've done 26 episodes now. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, since episode 1, we've always had fun. We've always laughed our posteriors off constantly, just the whole time doing it. And while that continues to happen, I'm going to keep doing these. It's just so much fun doing it.
Yeah, you got really sad when I said I was going to stop doing skits.
Right? I'm a big Monty Python. A lot of people are, and that's just like a crux of a lot of things.
All right, you guys want to see something funny? So, Geoff, I'll let you do this breakdown. So,
okay.
obviously we have the scene from this episode where we were in the tank. I'll tell you guys right now, I thought of this scene before I wrote most of the script. This was like the earliest part of the script was this scene. I think I told Ryan and everybody in my server that I was going to do it. The entire script was based on me being able to do this one scene. So that's pretty funny. But I'll play it through right here. I'm going to mute myself so it doesn't come in through my mic. But I'll just play it through. And hopefully it comes through the stream well enough. Once we have more information, I'll be sure to provide an update on a future episode. In the meantime, there's still one more major problem that we'll have to deal with, and that is the current autogen system's impact on rapid reusability. After the booster is successfully caught by the chopsticks, the remaining propellants will boil off along with the CO2 dry ice. After all of that is gone, the water ice will melt and leave 1.6 cubic meters, or 420 gallons, of contaminated water at the bottom of the tank. If you attempt to do a quick turnaround with the booster, the water will likely freeze solid on the bottom of the tank once you begin loading liquid oxygen. If it managed to float to the surface instead without causing issues, you would still end up with double the amount of water left in the tank after the second flight. This means that before the booster can be reflown, someone is going to have to get inside of the LOX tank, climb down past that filtration screen, and vacuum all that water out.
This is bullshit. Hey, yo, for real, let's get that AC rolling. And you know damn well I need a bigger vacuum. Stop playing with me.
All right, so yeah, this is probably one of my favorite skits that I've done in a while. I had to like put it like super deep into the episode because you guys would be surprised how many people will just, straight up leave a video because of a skit. Like, the rate of attrition is extremely high. Matter of fact, the intro to this video was probably the most risky thing I've done in a long time because it was 60 seconds of talking about nature. I feel like I should show y'all the stats on this. I'm gonna split this really quick. I'm gonna come back to that. The stats of how many people leave a video in the first like 30 seconds is insane, and it's almost kind of sad, honestly. You guys, this is like the most difficult part of content creation is what happens when people watch your video, and it is extremely depressing sometimes. Let's see. I gotta see I forget where they show this stat at.
Yeah, they click away so quickly.
Right here. So we'll look at this. Oh, okay. I'm on the wrong screen right here. So this is like your average, your view time, right? So the amount of people who actually make it to the end of my episodes, like 19%. Super sad, right? But the worst part about it is that intro, right? So in that 48 seconds before I start talking about Starship, 51% of people have already clicked away from the video. So doing things like that is always a risk that I know I'm taking. And honestly, I'm kind of like, you know what? Whatever. I'm not worried about that 50% of the people. Those are the 50% of the people that I probably don't want watching the video in the first place. So, you know, it probably is weeding people out to some degree. But yeah, super risky to do that stuff. And I always have to be conscious of like losing people within there. And so let me actually go back to what I was trying to show y'all, which a lot of people were wondering about the process of this. So I'll let Geoff explain how we did this.
Okay, I'll do my best. Well, you're controlling it, so before you hit play, let's just think about what's happening here. Obviously, this is the... Is it okay to say ghetto? The ghetto green screen, literally Zach playing out the scene. So if you play it on, we'll see what we have to do, how we build the scene.
Do you want me to play the version that you created or the raw version?
Isn't that the one I made?
Yeah. Okay, I'll play this one.
Yeah, just play that. And then we crop it down, and then we make the green disappear. And then we add a foreground. And then the background, which obviously makes it. But if we take away Zach, we can see shadows. You might need to back this up a little bit. So just see what's actually going on. This is the first time we've actually done this, where we've had shadows and reflections going on.
Yeah. So with this one, Ryan actually, we had to do it it's back and forth. So first, Ryan got us the actual scene so that we could place ourselves in the scene, record everything. Then I recorded everything, sent it over to Ryan. He made the shadows based on the recording. So he had to like animate these shadows and the water. So you can see the water animation at the bottom as well too.
Yeah, the water was his animation, but he actually pulled in our video of Zach and created the reflections correctly.
Oh my god, yeah, that was really fun. And you can see there was an earlier scene where I was talking about there being a if they like actually solved the problem with the ice in the tank, and I called it a super heavy sized band-aid. So I like put this band-aid on my face, and the peels for the band-aid are right here on the floor. And at first I was going to clean them up because I was like, oh, this might actually show up later on, and I don't want them to like show up in the green screen when they shouldn't be there. But it fell in the perfect position for where I needed to put my feet in order to be standing on the edge of that rim. So I was like, oh, well, this is actually kind of perfect because I put my feet on it, and I was like looking at I can have another monitor up so I can actually like see what I look like inside of the tank. And like as soon as I put my feet on those markers, they like ended up lining up perfectly for where they needed to be. So it's really funny how all of this stuff develops. I feel like I should do like bloopers or something, but there's too many of them because especially if I'm working with like Jax or whatever, Jax is like the king of bloopers in a way, where he says a lot of things that I wish I could include in my episodes, but like I just can't because
He's a very honest person.
yes, he's the most honest person I know. And when he speaks his mind, I'm like, I should put that in the episode, but I'm not going to because people are going to hate us. Like if you put anything in your video that's not saying SpaceX is the greatest to ever do it, the amount of comments that you'll get of people like hating on you is insane. NSF just went through this like the other day. They tried to talk about the FAA issue. This is why I don't talk about three-letter agencies. This is the prime example. All of the comments underneath their video were about people being mad that they weren't, that they were saying anything that could be perceived as negative towards SpaceX. So that's why I don't do that. But yeah, if I could bring more of Jax into these videos, I think I would get a lot of negative comments. There'd be a lot more positive comments too, because a lot of people just love Jax. But the people that hate negativity, yeah, they would not like it at all.
This reminds me of the scene way back. I can't remember even which episode it was, but you serve yourself a drink. You make a cocktail and you serve yourself a drink.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I don't know if I could pull that up right now, but yeah, that was a good one. Yeah, and I also did the one where Judarius Rioliani was dancing, or he's like walking in front of me and he dances before he like leaves after we kidnapped Tim. It's really fun. It's really fun to do scenes where it's like you inception of yourself in the same video. Let's see. I know I've skipped over some of the questions, so I'm going to try and go back to them. Oh wow! So a few donations that I missed, and I'm really sorry about that. Let's see. I'll touch on the donations first. So there's one 500. We already just established this. This was Argentina, right? 500
Yes, sir.
Argentinian dollars. If we put a small telescope on each satellite in the Starlink constellation, they could be synchronized as if to form a giant telescope looking at the Earth's surface. We could have very detailed image resolution of the surface. Yeah, honestly, that kind of makes me think about the onboard cameras on Starship as well, too. Like, if you could just pull up a live stream of all of the Starlink cameras, and then you could, like, kind of like Google Street View, where you can like move the street view to wherever you want. They could easily do that with Starlinks and it be a live video. That would actually be really cool. I'm actually hoping that when they do the first like true orbital launch of Starship, that the it's like a 24/7 stream showing the aft flat or the flat camera, because those are pretty incredible. Let's see. $49 from Interstellar Gateway. Thank you so much. Definitely appreciate your support. Yeah, you guys are really awesome. And I wasn't sure how this was going to go, but it's fun to do these live streams. And like I said, I'll probably end up doing some more following episodes. I probably won't do it in between episodes. It'll probably more likely be immediately after an episode, like within a week. Yeah, Kamala Chameleon says making a video people don't watch is brutal on the health. Yeah, but you know, I'm not really 100% sure how those stats even work, to tell you the truth, because you know, I don't know how it accounts for people who like stop in the middle and then come back. So I know a lot of people, when they watch long videos like that, they'll pause it and come back later and pick up where they left off. So I think each of those counts as 3 separate views. And even though that person made it to the end, it's not counting it as somebody making it to the end. It's counting it as somebody who started halfway through and makes it to the end. So I think the stats are a little bit off. And honestly, it doesn't really bother me. I can tell that, you know, whether it's on X or other people's videos, that a lot of the information that we come out with ends up making its way around. And that's really the goal, is like education. I don't really, while views are nice, you know, I'm more interested in that information getting out there, which has been my goal from the start, is to just like, you know, educate people. So let's see. Let's see. Yeah, I'm scrolling through these chats, and a lot of them are related to that that intro. Florida Man asks, if the autogen contamination is not resolved with Raptor 3, how might it affect orbital refilling? I don't know. I'm confused on that one, because, well, you have 2 different situations. You have the tank that's delivering the fuel, and then you have the tank that's receiving it. So I think the tank that's delivering it may be fine, because I'm assuming there will be a separate tank in the payload section of the ship, but then they're filling the main tank on the other ship. So that ship is the one that's going to have the problem, because there will be ice and whatever left over in that one. I don't know. I don't know how they're going to handle that situation. And honestly, like, we haven't even figured out how they handle it just during the first burn from the ship. Like, we have no idea. We don't know if they've installed a filtration system similar to what they have in the booster. I mean, it is, I want to say it's a lot less autogen gas going into the ship's tank, but that's not necessarily true. It's just happening over a longer period of time, like less gas over a longer period of time. I don't know. We're a little bit confused on the situation with the ship, to tell you the truth. Let's see. Sorry. Just reading through the comments here. Usually most people would have somebody to do this for them, but I think I'll have that set up next time. We're kind of just like figuring out what does and doesn't work. Somebody asked, how do we only have 87,000 subscribers? Because we only have 26 videos. Tell you the truth. Like, that's really the main reason. If I made more videos, I'd probably have more subscribers. It's pretty simple. But I'm not even mad, honestly. Like, it would be nice if we were over 100,000. But like, here's the thing. I've never released a video where I got less views than I have subscribers. So like, would you rather have 1 million subscribers and only 250,000 people watch it, or would you rather have 200,000 subscribers and 1 million people watch it? You know, that's where I feel like I'm at. I always have 3 to 4 times more people who watch the videos than what are actually subscribed, which until I leave that phase of things, then I'll probably be more worried about subscriber count. But as long as we have more viewers than subscribers, I'm happy. I mean, we kind of average roughly 4,000 to 5,000 subscribers per video. And most people that have thousands of videos, you'll have like, yeah, you got 400,000 subscribers, but on average, you're adding 20 subscribers per video because you have 2,000 videos out. So I'd rather be in the zone where I'm averaging 5,000 subscribers per video than 20. So, I can't really complain. Let's see. $10 donation from Yazada saying, do more of these live discussions. Yeah, I definitely enjoy it. It's nice. I'm going to have to make sure next time is not on the same day as an RGV stream, because that's a little difficult. I'm not one of those people who could just like sit here and stream all day like Kai or something like that. Like, yeah, I don't know how people have the energy for that. I should skip this question, but I'm not going to. Would you ever host with Felix or Ellie in space? I have done things with Ellie. She's great. So yes to that one. No comment to the other one. Moving on. So Mohammed Mamda asks, given that they always replace the hold down clamps after every launch, if the catch was successful, how are they going to place the booster on the launch mount? Well, they don't necessarily replace the hold down clamps after every launch. They've done it after most of them, but not every launch. I don't think it necessarily matters, like, because if you just put the booster back on the launch mount, you can continue holding it with the chopsticks. Like, let's say the clamps don't want to like re-engage. You can just hold it with the chopsticks until you get the transport stand over to the launch site, and then you can just like lift it back off and place it on the transport stand if there was an actual issue. Let's see. Doc John asks, can't they just put the liquid oxygen in a separate bladder and not have to deal with the oxygen gas contamination? Yeah, so this is related to the actual episode. Yeah, I don't know how you would do that. Like, you would need like a moving screen, like a solid screen. So I'm thinking like I don't know if a bladder necessarily would work, but it would be similar to like an open top crude oil storage tank. So like crude oil storage tanks, I'm going to look this up here and explain that. So you can actually see this really well in this image right here. So, okay, I tried to full screen that, and it, yeah. So these are, I forget the correct name for these, but essentially, when you look at these, you can tell how full the tank is because the top moves with the level of the fluid. And so if you had some way of actually separating the gas column from the liquid column, then it wouldn't really matter. As long as the gas is pushing down on the moving lid in order to apply the same pressure to the liquid that is needed for the inlet on the turbo pumps. But that's really complex because it's like moving around the downcomer, which is ribbed, and then it also needs to keep moving once it gets to the landing tank, which is just not going to happen. So yeah, interesting idea, but I don't know how they would pull that off. Let's see, another comment, wow, awesome donation, another one from Sean McPherson. If you see Elon, you can tell him your idea, and if he likes it, we can sell it to him for $10K. That's funny. I I don't know. I'm not sure if Elon watches my stuff anymore. I know he has in the past. I'm just not sure these days. I don't know. I feel like I'm like on the borderline of like upsetting him sometimes, or not. I'm not even worried about like him, but like I care more about like the people who work at SpaceX. So I'm always like kind of worried about how they're going to perceive certain things. So yeah, I don't know. I as much as it would be awesome to do a tour of Starbase, I don't really see that happening anytime soon. So I wouldn't get your hopes up. Let's see here. What time is it? Why do you think S33 has individual downcomer for its RVACs? That is a question for the ring watchers. I am really good at staying in my lane, so I'm going to go ahead and do that on that one because I'm not 100% sure. Astrogen asks how it's still light outside where I am. It's not. I know you see those LEDs behind me. Come on, Jen. Yeah, I got some LEDs back here because I wanted to highlight these awesome paintings by T-Live. So I got this one right here. This one, hold on one second. When I turn this light on, Jeff's going to be mad because he wanted me to have it on the whole time. Yeah, so...
Not as bad as I want the microphone pointed at your face.
Whatever. I just don't want this light all over my face, you know. So yeah, this is the one with the galaxy. That was really cool. We also have this one. So this is some of her like early paintings. She's leveled up significantly since then. And then we have obviously the Starship TPS tile back here. And then this SN8 model right here is from Nick T. So Nick T sent that to me quite a while ago. You know, I don't have this type of studio for my actual episodes, or else I'd probably have that displayed in there all the time. Pretty awesome, though. Let's see. Rudra Patel asks, maybe you already explained it, but what does CSI stand for? It stands for crime scene investigation. So, yeah, a lot of people didn't like that when I first came out with it. They were like, some people were like super upset about it. Like, but it's a theme. It's not saying that there's a crime going on here. It's more of the theme of the type of investigation, the level of investigation. Honestly, like NTSB would be more fitting. Like honestly, like I feel like I could probably quit what I'm doing right now and go work for the NTSB. That would actually be really fun, but I wouldn't get to make videos about it. If they would let me make videos about it, I'd probably do that, and you guys would not see me make Starship videos anymore. Let's see. I keep moving on here. Let's see. So T's, 3 T's and a 10 asks, why would Raptor 3 not solve the contaminant issues? Wouldn't they increase the temperature, pressure in the preburners and cryogenically cool them, making them able to use that for autogenous pressure? I mean, it really just comes down to whether or not Damian Bobby says, I never knew it was crime scene investigation. Yeah, I thought everybody knew what CSI was, but I guess I'm just like old. Yeah. But answering the question, I think it really just comes down. Okay, so the big thing with Autogen on the liquid oxygen side is that the heat exchanger for methane is so large because it's like the whole engine bell, and it's like goes the inner and outer walls of the engine bell, and you're consuming far less methane than you are liquid oxygen. So you would think that if you're consuming liquid oxygen at a higher rate, you need more oxygen gas for the liquid oxygen tank, then you theoretically should need a larger heat exchanger surface than what you have for the methane side. So, I mean, the engine nozzle is like the largest heat exchanging surface on the vehicle. So I think it makes sense to me that that they may not solve it with Raptor 3 because there's just simply not enough surface area to do the same thing with liquid oxygen as you do with methane. So, yeah. Credence asks, not old, is that show still on? Yeah, they got a whole bunch of them. I'm pretty sure that at some point I'm going to get like a cease and desist from CBS because they're going to be like, you can't use this name. Google obviously already doesn't let me like display my merch on our page. I think they call it misrepresentation, but like, all right, we're gonna get that fixed one of these days. Let's see. I don't see too many other questions in here. There is one from Nicholas Bitrich. What possible solutions can you think of to help get the FAA up to speed to handle SpaceX's demands? I don't know if this falls into my rules against not talking about three-letter agencies or not. It's all about funding. Like if they have the amount of money that they need in order to process things at the rate they need to process. So that, I mean, like it's a personnel issue, right? So like you need greater personnel in order to do things at a certain rate, then you need more money to do that. So it really comes down to like that investment being made. You also have to train people as well, so that's even more investment. And then you have to like actually establish what your rules are. So I think that's a big part of the problem is that they, to some degree, are having to figure out the rules on the fly. Like there are the standard rules that they know need to be followed, and then there's new ones that only apply to this situation, which is a first of its kind situation. So you know, there's lots of different areas to this, which is one of the reasons why I don't speak on it, because it's like you no matter what you say about this situation, you're going to be missing something and just kind of sound ignorant. So that's why I usually keep my opinion to myself on that one. Let's see. Isaac Murrell, shout out to Isaac. I worked with Isaac at Best Buy. He says, I love what you're doing with the channel. Proud of you. Isaac, if you're still in Denver, hit me up. I'm pretty sure last I heard he like moved somewhere else, but yeah, always cool to see. There's like a few people that I've worked with in the past that actually watch my episodes, which is really awesome. So, Credence asks, is your studio flame proof with all the heat shield tiles? No, it's probably extremely flammable actually. Yeah, no, these are just like soft tiles. Those took forever to install because I wasn't able to I had to do the whole room just so that I don't sound like I'm echoing, and I wasn't willing to do an episode until I had that finished. So there was actually like a 3-month gap in between when I moved from Chicago to Denver because I had to have everything pretty much perfectly set up. Max asks, will the transport stand that Booster 12 will be lifted onto be at the launch site during liftoff? Probably not. That's actually really funny because one of our thumbnails from one of the episodes I did with Jax. I'll just show you guys this thumbnail really quick because this is one of my favorite ones because of the fact that nobody noticed this. Okay, here, I'll just show this really quick. So this was how to avoid a catastrophic failure of Starship, and in this thumbnail there's a transport stand flying through the air because this is like I think this was supposed to be a wet dress rehearsal, or no, this was a launch, and we left the transport stand at the launch site. I think we made this using the Starbase Simulator video game, and so we left the transport stand there so that after the booster exploded, it would send the transport stand flying into the tank farm. And yeah, I guess that's a long way of answering your question. I do not think that it's a good idea to leave transport stands at the launch site. Okay. So no cryogenics in the studio. No. That reminds me, some people got upset about me having a bowl of liquid oxygen in my last video. They're like, that's not real, right? I'm like, yeah, I know. Another donation from Sean McPherson. Jesus, hopefully your wife's okay with this. Did you know that 10 Falcon 9, wait, that with 10 Falcon 9s, we can launch 100 atomic bombs anywhere in the world, much cheaper than before. It's kind of morbid. But yeah, they're definitely the ultimate transport systems for nuclear weapons if you wanted to use them that way. Let's see. True. Gret asks, are they planning on testing the Pez dispenser on the next flight? I don't know. I don't think they've said anything about the next flight other than the fact they're going to do the catch attempt. I'm going to take a few more questions because we are approaching 9 o'clock here, 10 o'clock Central Time. So I need to eat some dinner at some point. Let's see. Bill Jacobs asks, again, your wet vacuuming scene in the last video was an eye-opener. You hinted that Raptor 3 may only feed pure LOX vapor back to the LOX tank. Was that speculation or insight? I guess I did kind of just cover this a little bit. It's not speculation or insight. It's just like what they need to do. Whether they're going to do it or not is the question, but that's what they need to do. I think that there's a chance that they're like not worried about it. Like they're kind of like, oh, well, we got this filtration system, which is pretty awesome. And, about that vacuum scene, like it was funny, but it's also not realistic because there's vents on the bottom. There's 2 detank vents on the bottom of the LOX tank. So like you can just open those up and drain all that water out. It doesn't really help you with the ship, but at least with the booster, you can drain all that water out fairly easily, actually. Felix, $5 donation. Enjoy your work, skits and all. Keep it up. Thank y'all. Yeah, I mean, I think most of the people who would end up in this live stream are all probably people who would enjoy the skits. It's the random people who happen to come across the video that are most likely to not like them. But I've gotten better at making them like flow better with the episode instead of just like, here's a skit just to have a skit. So, let's see. Sausage asked about my background. I did answer that at the beginning of the episode, so I would recommend going back to that. Sausage. Greg Thompson asked, do you have to worry about or receive requests from U.S. government to rewrite scripts due to ITAR? No, like literally, I'm never worried. A lot of people are always like, oh, are you not worried about what the Chinese are gonna copy this? And I'm like, I hope they do. Like, I do. I hope they do. Because like they're at risk of ruining space. They blow things up in orbit. They drop boosters on top of people. Like if something I say helps them improve what they do, I'm pretty sure the rest of the all the other space agencies across the planet would probably be grateful for them, taking things more seriously and actually focusing on, reducing their orbital footprint, I guess. But no, the Elon said this multiple times. If things are visible on from camera views, then they can't really do much about it. And I don't know. I don't think ITAR really works like y'all think it do, honestly. Like, that's only something that SpaceX can get in trouble for. It's not something me as a content producer can get in trouble for, I don't think. Unless I were to, like, leak something that shouldn't come out, I don't think I could really be approached by that. Let's see. Question, Casa Bonita. Answer, yes. Question, could the catch, if gone wrong, compromise the tower itself in any way? I mean, yeah. If it's, depending on how much fuel's left over, depending on how big the explosion is, it will surely cause some residual damage to the tower. more of the launch mount, but hopefully it would be a one and done. You would never see it happen twice, and they're gonna retrofit that launch mount anyways. So I don't think it'd be that big of a deal, but I don't know if it would actually fully compromise the actual structure, forcing it to be torn down. Like, I think it would affect like some of your mechanical stuff on the inside of the tower, but not necessarily the actual superstructure itself. Okay, so I'm gonna handle some of the rest of these donations, and then I'll probably take like 2 more questions, and then I'll maybe cut the stream after that. Sean McPherson's crazy. So Credence with a $10 donation for some libation with dinner. What is this symbol right here? The 8. Oh, that's a face. That's a smiley face with a nose. Gotcha. Thank you for the donation. Drew Nar with a $10 Canadian donation. Just wanted to say thank you. I always look forward to learning about the workings of Starship, and Starbase isn't always visible. Yeah. You know, that's literally my favorite thing, is to find things that people are unaware of and, you know, discuss them so they become somewhat common knowledge. So yeah, it's really fun. That's my, the most enjoyment I get out of this is finding things that nobody notices. Nobody notices. Let's see. So, $5 donation from Sharpie. Thank you. Really appreciate all of your donations. You guys are awesome. I think there's not too many remaining questions. Who do I claim as my football team? I'm from Colorado. I'm not a trader, and I'm not a fair weather fan in any way, shape, or form. You guys know those fair weather fans that only watch Starship when there's like a launch? Worst. Shout out to T-Live. Oh, man. Let's see. I don't see too many more questions in here, but yeah, there was some more things I wanted to cover today, but I think we can probably end it here. Like I said, this was kind of a test stream just to see what we do and don't like about it, because there's obviously some things that we're going to try and fix. You know, so if you guys happen to notice anything that you did or didn't like, leave some like comments below. On the not in the chat, but like below the actual live stream after it's over, because you know there are some things that we probably haven't thought of that we could do to make things a little bit smoother. So I'm just happy that my mic doesn't sound like garbage anymore. So yeah, yeah, and I definitely want to thank everybody. I'm noticing everybody in the chat that I talk to on a regular basis. What's up, Shenandoah Smith? Hello. Yeah, really want to thank all of you for hopping in here. This was really fun, and like I said, I think we'll do this again after the next video comes out. Not sure exactly when that's going to be. My goal is to start working on it next week, which makes it seem like it's going to take forever. But like I said, I have like 4 that are pretty deep in progress right now. Like the Massey's static fire test stand one is the one that I really want to finish, but I feel like there's going to be a time where it becomes a little bit more relevant, specifically once they start excavating the flame trench at the launch mount at the pad B. So that's probably my goal, is to time that episode up with pad B construction, because like what I really want to compare the 2 flame trenches and the deluge systems as well. So maybe it'll be like a part 1 and part 2. But yeah, so I would maybe expect a month and a half between the now and the next one. So who knows? Maybe I'll do a live stream before then if it becomes necessary. But they do take a lot of time and energy out of the day. So cool. Sorry, we'll address this one last question before we hop out of here today. Jackie Wacky says, do you believe you'll make a Mechazilla deep dive video? It depends on what Ryan does, honestly. I don't like to like step on I don't like to step on my friends' toes, you know? So one thing I try not to do, and this is something that really bothers me, because sometimes you'll see people like take direct quotes from my episodes in their videos and not even mention where it came from. This is one thing I really love about Everyday Astronaut, NSF, because they never do that. They always say like, oh yeah, so CSI said this, CSI said that. You know, a lot of other people will just like repeat things as if it's, you know, they came up with them themselves. And that's one of the big reasons why like you guys will see me, like I could shorten my episodes if I just like talked about what I'm showing instead of saying, oh yeah, this image from Starship Gazer. Like, no, I'm trying to like show where this all came from, right? So like I always say by name who everything came from, you know, that's sorry, I'm getting distracted because that's a big thing for me is the way that people like quote things in other places. I don't want to like get too deep into it because we could go off on a tangent. But to answer the rest of the question, I don't want to basically redo what Ryan's about to do. Like Ryan's episode is going to be really good, really in depth. So I don't know if it will be necessary for me to do one. There are some things that I know for a fact that he's not intending to cover. So there may be some use in doing it. We'll see.
Hey, thanks, RGV.
Oh, nice. Awesome. $20 donation from Mauricio, RGV. Appreciate you for hopping in here. Shout out to Mauricio. Mauricio is one of the, I think the first person I met no, that was Ryan from Cosmic Perspective, and then Starship Gazer, and then Mauricio. So yeah, it was pretty awesome, the welcome that I got to the community when I first started as a commentator on the Lab Padre channel. So awesome. And one last donation that came in from Callistia Lee. Excellent first live stream. Looking forward to more. Yeah, me as well. I don't know how I feel about the timing of it because I get like kind of tired. Maybe I'll try and do them in the afternoon. But either way, they'll most likely be within a week after the episodes come out. Hopefully, because more often than not, like the episode comes out like right before I leave for 2 weeks to go back to work. So there's a chance I would have to wait until I get back on days off, which would mean at least 14 days between video and live stream. But yeah, I'll definitely put some more thought into how I can intermix these a little bit more. And yeah, once again, thank you to all of the people who donated in the live stream today, all of the new members. I've seen a bunch of them come in. I think we just had one right now, Stephen Gangstead. So yeah, tons of new members that I didn't mention, but definitely appreciate all of your support. And especially for those of you who watch both on RGV and here, also on Lab Padre. It's been a while since I've been on Lab Padre stream, but I'm still a part of the commentator team. So yeah, really happy to have people cross over between those different channels and kind of follow me around a little bit. So yeah, thank you to everybody who hopped in the stream today. And yeah, if you guys enjoyed it, make sure to leave a like on the way out. I'm not really worried about the algorithm picking this up. This is more like a, you know, little test video just to see how it works out. So yeah, shout out to everybody. And with that, I think actually hold up. Let's let Geoff say goodbye as well too. Geoff.
Thanks, everyone.
What was that?
It doesn't fit. I've got headphones on. Now I just look like a cone head.
Why?
Thanks, Zach.
Awesome. All right. Well, we'll see you all next time. You guys enjoy the rest of your Sunday, or if you're already into Monday, for those of you in Australia or whatever on the other side of the planet, enjoy the rest of your days, and we'll see you all next time.